Now, moving right along, I'd like to get to probably one of the most important part of Hanna Kroger's work. And it is the finding of the value of the tailbone being in the proper position. Now, strange to talk about the value of the tailbone. Let me get this in anatomical language. We're speaking of the coccyx. It's a little protrusion of bones that literally looks like a tail if you see it on an x-ray. It comes right down from your sacrum. So if you reach around and find, if you follow your spine straight down till you find the end, and then you find it starts to come into the center of the body, that's where you're starting in on the coccyx. You don't often feel it, but if you sit down on it hard, you'll feel some pain there. And when the tailbone is out of place, it stops the whole pumping action that goes on with the tailbone. So as you breathe in, and then let it out. And then you breathe in again. As you breathe in, you're going to feel your hip structure slightly goes in, and you'll find that that coccyx is moving more towards the center of the body. So, and then as you let it out, you find it relaxing, and it comes back out. That constant move of the tailbone with every breath that you take is the pumping action that causes all of the bone fluid, the bone marrow, to move in your body. And if you're starting to put two and two together real fast, you're right. The bone marrow doesn't move, you've got leukemia. Leukemia, in our opinion, is not a cancer. And one of the reasons why the tailbone is so valuable, so very vital to the existence of a person, is that it keeps all of that fluid moving and keeps you from leukemia. If you have a tailbone out of place, or let me put it the other way, if you have leukemia, you have a tailbone out of place. We constantly find that leukemia goes away in approximately 5 days. Now, there's some of you who are probably ready to shoot guns at me and throw darts at me about this time because you think that's impossible. But when Hanna worked in a special hospital in Dresden, Germany, they would have 25 children come in each week who had leukemia. The first thing they would do is put the tailbone in place, and I'm going to show you all the other parts as we do the tailbone, so that you would know how to take away leukemia as they did with these children. So each week 25 would come in with leukemia, and at the end of the week that 25 would leave without leukemia, and then fresh 25 with leukemia would come in. And mathematically we can safely say that 5,000 children went through this, and there is no record, although records were destroyed, nobody in the hospital ever heard of a child ever dying from leukemia afterwards. And they kept as good a track as they could during those times. So I'd like to show you how to put a tailbone in place first, and then I'm going to follow through and show you how to take away leukemia at the same time. Last time we did this, a 38-year-old man came down from Canada. The doctors of a medical nature had done all the blood tests to make sure that his diagnosis was accurate, that he had leukemia. And he had 3 opinions, and all of them confirmed the man had leukemia. We did what I'm about to show you, and 5 days later the man went back to Toronto. They did 2 weeks worth of testing on him because they couldn't believe what they found. And at the end of the 2 weeks, all the doctors scratched their head and said, I don't know how it's possible, but we can't find one trace of leukemia in the body. So there are things that happened in the late 30s that are still happening right now to show that this methodology keeps leukemia, or takes away leukemia. But the other value of putting a tailbone in place is that when the tailbone is out, it also shuts down the spleen. Now, we showed you how to revitalize the spleen, but it won't pump, it won't move, it won't continue to be revitalized unless you're sure the tailbone is in place. How do you know if a tailbone is out of place? One of the signs is someplace on your body you'll see little red dots. They look like beginning moles, they look like blood blisters. Little blood blisters starting someplace on the body, and they seem to come out of nowhere. And you're going to think you're going to be Freckle Fred or Freckle Franny if you have all these stay on you, but they're really a sign that your tailbone's out of place. Now, there's another way that we commonly use When the tailbone is out of place, the energy, the movement of energy dies. And you can run your hand along the shin bone and use some instrument like a pendulum to find out if there's harmony or disharmony. A positive sign with your pendulum will show that the tailbone is very much in place. A negative sign on either of these shows that the tailbone is out of place. We use that test more frequently than trying to inspect the whole body for little red dots. But one of the other signs is there's a fullness in the temple. That's not a dependable sign because the person is used to living with it by that time, and they don't recognize the difference until you put the tailbone in place. So, if I may ask our model to roll over on her stomach. Now, we have a massage table here, but we're purposely not using the hole in the massage table for the face because we want the head turned one way or the other. Now, obviously, you don't do this with somebody who has a severe neck problem where that would in any way jeopardize the neck. But we do it purposely this way because by turning the neck, it pulls the muscles coming down to the tailbone in a very specific way. What we're really doing is removing the muscle spasm that's right around that tailbone. Now, you know when you have a Charlie horse, you get up and you sort of walk it out. Well, what you're doing is you're stretching and moving the muscles so that you get rid of that spasm that's in the Charlie horse. We're using the same principle here by taking the person's leg and moving the legs in such a way that we move the muscle and we take the spasm out. How simple could it be? Now, it's not a spasm that you feel like this or gripping like a Charlie horse, but it's nonetheless there in a non-vibrating or reverberating way. And that's the real principle behind this methodology. So first we start up at our old familiar spot, the hump, or T1, first thoracic, and we find the spinal column. And then literally, as if you're playing a piano, walk your fingers down either side of the spinal column. And you walk right down to the end of the sacrum, and from this point forward, I'm never going to lose contact with the person I'm working on because there is an electromagnetic bonding and flowing that's very important during this whole process. So I keep contact here, I come back up to here, and I walk my fingers down both sides of the spine again. Now I'm going to do this 3 times, and I'm going to do most everything in this demonstration 3 repetitive times. There's no magic to 3. It's just that it's usually sufficient. If you felt that you didn't do one part of it correctly, go on and do it a 4th. It won't hurt at all. But you usually have to do it at least 3, each one of these parts. So this first part is I'm walking my fingers down either side of the spine while the subject's head or their nose is facing towards me. And after I've done that 3 times, I'm going to put the hand closest to the head right over the juncture of the tailbone and the sacrum. I'm not pressing down, there's no pressure, other than just to keep this area stable while I now work with the legs. Now when you do this yourself, you're going to get instant dyslexia, so I'm going to do this rather swiftly and then take the notes a second time. Take the leg furthest from you, bend it at the knees so the sole points towards the heavens, and pull it towards you 3 times. Now be careful of the knee, bring it over to the point of resistance plus a little. So that's once, twice, 3 times, then the opposite direction, point of resistance, plus a little, once, twice, 3 times. Now this one has no resistance, it's simply a pumping action, once, twice, 3 times, and now bring the heel towards the buttocks, but again, be very careful with the knee, you don't want to strain it too far, so point of resistance, plus a little, once, twice, 3 times, and then put it down. Slide your hand under the front of the leg, right above the kneecap, and encourage your patient to relax and get yourself in a good position and lift the leg out, up and over, out, up and over, out, up and over. Ask your subject to change your head in the opposite direction because that causes a different torque in the hip. Out, up and over, out, up and over, out, up and over. Again, I'm not pressing with this hand, I'm just keeping it stable.